Our next guest is an acclaimed writer who has had her poetry published in Puerto del Sol, Storyscapes, and others. She's received fellowships from the Bronx Council on the Arts and Drisha Institute for Jewish Education, and joining us to share more on her first novel, The Beautiful Possible, please welcome Amy Gottlieb. Hello and welcome and congratulations.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
You know, what does it take to write a novel?
What doesn't it take? This book took me about 10 years to write. It was not my first attempt. I put my first attempt in a drawer many, many years ago. It took about 10 years of writing many, many drafts, some missteps, waking up at 4 in the morning before I had to go to work, revising endlessly, and at one point I had to start all over from the beginning. And I have to say, it's a wonderful
sorry.
process.
You know what it is? I'm taken back because I just wonder if our viewers get what that means. 10 years. That's a very, very long time to not lose faith and not give up on your direction. And I'm sure you probably swayed it this way and were like thrown off path. And I can only imagine what you went through to get this novel together. Published and everything.
Absolutely. And at one point, I was almost tempted to give up, but this story was so alive in my mind, and I was thinking about it all the time, no matter what else I was doing, and I couldn't give up. And that's when I knew I had to follow it all the way to the end.
So, how is it that you choose your topic, and what is it that inspired you to write this? It's kind of like a triangle love story. Mm-hmm. Or why don't we give our viewers some insight as to what the novel's about?
Sure. So The Beautiful Possible tells a love triangle or a braided love story between an American rabbi, his wife, and a German Jewish refugee who leaves Berlin, escapes the Holocaust, finds himself in India, spends time at an ashram for a few years, comes to New York, meets the rabbi and his wife, and then their lives are intertwined for the rest of their lives. And it goes into another generation.
So did you have to travel to gain more insight of these stories, or is it based on a lot of research?
So I wish. Ironically, I have not been to India yet, and my readers are very surprised I haven't been there. So now that I've written the book, I'm hoping to go. So I did a little bit of research. I found out about this ashram in India where, ironically, some German Jews had fled to during the war. So that was really interesting, and that came about through research. I know a lot about Jewish life and about rabbis. That's been my day job and my passion for many, many years. And in terms of getting inspiration for the woman in the story, Rosalie, she was inspired by the women of my mother's generation. So when I was a girl, my mother's friends would come over almost every night of my childhood. And they'd come one at a time, they'd march up the stairs, my mother would make coffee, and they would tell their most intimate secrets about their lives. And I would sit.
I love this. I could sit here and listen because, you know, it's really nice and refreshing to know that it was important for you to capture that and place it on paper and basically make it a historical story.
Right, right. So I would listen to their stories and just get a sense of their voices and their longings. They were feminists, but it was the 60s and the 70s, and they couldn't go quite far enough where we lived in our community. So their
What does
voices,
that mean? What do you mean?
You know, a lot of them had not gone to college.
I see.
They didn't have jobs. They were still very aligned with their roles as wives and mothers. And
There's a different standard for women at that time, right?
yeah, definitely. And it was different in cities, but we were out on Long Island, and this was our little community. So I feel in many ways that these women made me a writer because I just loved to listen to their stories and really get the essence of their voices and what they were saying.
That's nice. That's nice. And congratulations on actually executing your first novel. That's a big accomplishment.
Thank you so much.
That's a big accomplishment. So What exactly do you want the readers to leave with? Unfortunately, I didn't get the book prior to this interview, so I don't really have that much insight. But just reading the synopsis, I was kind of taken by it, and I was like, oh, what an interesting topic she chose to write about. And obviously, you want to honor your heritage and your ancestry and your religion, because all of those components are part of the story. And this is just based on the synopsis, but just the storyline I found fascinating. It's like, why a triangle?
Well, you know, one of the interesting things about working with a triangle, first of all, if you're a writer, you can do so many things because you have three people who really complete each other in different ways. So that was really exciting for me and something I wanted to explore. And I want readers to think about the boundaries in their own lives. You know, if there's a marriage, who are the other people? What are the other influences among two people? What is the third? And to be challenged to think about boundaries of marriage, boundaries of faith, boundaries of how we think about ourselves in the world.
Yeah, I'm always up for a romance. Yeah, a romance novel in some form. You know, and I also wanted to just again, because I didn't read the book, but what do you define what do you define transcendent relationships to be?
A transcendent relationship is beyond a physical relationship. It's also a relationship that speaks to somebody's intellectual life, somebody's spiritual life, you know, somebody who completes you in
So, do you
ways.
find that to be a form of cheating? Just because in what I read, it kind of seemed like there was this connection. I'm actually interested in reading the book. There seemed like there was this connection with somebody who was friends with somebody who now became friends with his fiance, and he and the fiance became attracted to each other in a way that they kind of were almost inseparable.
Right. So the way the novel portrays these relationships, it's not quite cheating.
Right.
You could look at it that way,
Uh-huh.
but the novel challenges you to look at it in a different way because the three people really needed each other.
I like that. I like that. And I did get that there's a real strong spiritual component to the story. Yeah, yeah. So are there any last words you'd like to share with our viewers?
Well, thanks for having me on the show, and I hope people enjoy the book and check out my website and come out to see me at different events and readings. But this is a great choice for book clubs.
And
there's always a lot to talk about.
I like that. I like that. And are you doing readings here in the Bronx?
Not at the moment. I did some readings in Manhattan. I was out in California. I was in Ohio, and I'm about to go on a little New England trip next week.
Nice. All for your book.
All for my book, yeah.
How wonderful is that? How wonderful is that? Do we have time for her to read a verse in the book? Yes? Do we? No, we don't. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
It's okay, but I think it's a fabulous book to definitely dive into and do a great escape and travel to the world just by a mere reading a glimpse of of your synopsis. I kind of went off. I was even in the waters. It's very interesting. Congratulations.
Thank you so
Congratulations.
much.
I wish we had a little more time for you to read us a verse, but I'm sure our viewers get it. So once again, for more on Amy Gottlieb, you can visit her website, and you can also obtain more information about the book on her website by going to amygottlieb.com.